So we are now live, and we are here in Congressman Tiberi's office for what week is it? 30. Week 30. Week 30. We have, unfortunately, we still have reason to come. Maybe everything will be resolved and we won't have to come back for week 31, but not thinking that's going to be true. We are here today to address a number of different concerns and questions, and I'm going to open the floor to anybody who wants to speak first. Anybody ready to hop up? Very good. Awesome.
Short one. I just want, hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. I want to urge Representative Tiberi to support the House resolution censuring Trump for the moral outrage he stirred up by failing to quickly condemn white nationalist protesters in Charlottesville, Virginia, and saying that there was violence on both sides of the rally. I also want to urge him to support the bipartisan Senate legislation to prevent Trump from firing special counsel Robert Mueller without cause, or at least a reason good enough to convince a panel of federal judges. Another issue, he won't meet with us, but I did get a Facebook feed that he's meeting with insurance lobby people this afternoon. I just think that's inappropriate. Thank you.
Thank you. Great. Nathan?
Hi, Tim. Hello. I would like to ask Pat Tiberi to encourage Congress and the Cabinet to invoke the 25th Amendment, which would call for the removal of Donald Trump from office. I'm very concerned about his erratic behavior. He apparently is not on speaking terms right now with the most powerful man in Congress, that being Mitch McConnell. The idea that a president of the same party would not even be able to speak to the head of Congress, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make good sense, it doesn't make any sense. And what I see the president doing really is madness, and I think it's a very bad thing for the country, because you see him going to Arizona, and you see him doing these campaign rallies at this point in his presidency. And he's not trying to bring the country together. He's trying to divide us further. He's doubling down with an element of his base, which is violent.
That's right.
And he needs to be very careful about what happens to this country right now, because we are dangerously divided, and we need leadership.
That's right.
We're just too divided in too many ways. And so we need some leadership, and Pat Tiberi needs to step up and help us with that.
That's right.
Okay.
Thank you. Anybody else? Carolina?
Well, it kind of ties in with, I think a very old strategy by anybody who wants power is dividing people, obviously, divide and conquer. And yeah, it seems to me that that's what he's doing, as opposed to trying to bring people together in moments of crisis, as any other rational presidential president would have done, whether Republican or Democrat. I don't care. I cannot imagine any other president since my lifetime or before doing these sorts of things. So I think he wants to keep us more and more divided, talk to a very small base, but he's hoping that, between that and more general Republicans, he just wants to win another election or whatever, and he's not thinking about the good of the nation.
That's
and
right.
Along these lines also, I'm very worried about Afghanistan and the North Korea situation, and I think that as long as he keeps us divided, all he needs to do is get into a senseless war or prolong a senseless war in the case of Afghanistan, and that people won't have the strength to to come together across the aisle, also to oppose a war if the time comes, whereas we should be able to put reins on these sorts of aggravation internationally that he's causing. And also in terms of Afghanistan, they're cutting diplomacy, tons of positions in the State Department are empty. And that's exactly the opposite of what the world needs and this
That's
country
right.
needs. We need to work on diplomacy, business, but like constructive business partnerships and things and programs, peace programs, and not just do threats and just prolong wars and more troops to die for nothing.
Yes.
Thank you.
Trump's
Chris?
budget proposes cutting the State Department funding by
Of course.
1/3.
That's
That's
insane.
huge.
Yeah.
Huge.
Okay,
Karen?
I have a postcard
Come on in.
that I didn't get to
There we go.
finish last week.
Yep.
And it ties in with what you guys are saying. Okay, the front of it says, "No racists in our White House. Fire Gorka, fire Miller, impeach 45." Congressman Tiberi, the recent rally by 45 in Phoenix was very troubling and frightening thing to watch. Your president is completely out of touch with reality and has no moral compass. Instead of addressing issues and tragedies that America is facing, he spent all of his time lying about himself, once again attacking our free press and worrying about crowd size. He's not honored Heather Heyer in any way. He did not honor Senator John McCain, who has served our country with courage and decency. We all pray for him and his family and the friends and family of Heather. Yet 45 cannot even take one moment to even mention them, except to degrade Senator McCain. Ex-Sheriff Joe used racist tactics against the community. Pardoning him is like pardoning the people who blocked civil rights. It is wrong. Your president is unfit to save our country. Censure and get ready to impeach.
Thank you.
Different topic.
Yep. That's
No. We're on a roll.
We're on a roll. I'm gonna touch topics. Hey, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Haven't seen you for a while.
I know, where you been?
Parenting.
There we
But
go.
I was curious if we went to the eclipse. We went all the way down to Tennessee to see the totality, and I was curious if you got to see it or
We
if
did.
Pat got to see it. Cool. So it took us 14 hours to drive back.
Yeah, I heard it was
Yeah.
pretty painful on the way back.
So I don't know if Pat will still be in office the next eclipse, but it'd be cool to have all the roads open and not have 71 like construction. But so it really brought home for my family things about science being real and scientists being really good at predicting changes in weather. And
38 years ago.
yeah, well, hundreds of years ago. I mean,
No, it was
Christopher,
the Babylonians.
didn't Christopher
that-
Columbus?
Seriously, I
Yeah.
watched this
Yeah.
picture on it last night.
I mean, could Christopher Columbus predicted an eclipse and used it to like conquer native people? I mean, it's just science education and science and truth, and that's as good as I got right now
Yeah.
because I
That's
haven't
it.
slept for several days because we drove back.
I know.
That's right.
Evidence-based
Thank
government.
you.
Evidence-based government. Yeah, and the pro-truth pledge.
That's right.
Yeah,
They're very
that's
good.
all I got.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris. Anybody else? Yep.
I
Ann?
wanted to add to what Karen said. Not only did Trump not mention Heather, but a day or two after she was killed, he retweeted a train
Right.
charging down on a CNN reporter. Said that the CNN reporter was going to be mowed down by a train. And boy, is that being out of touch, isn't it?
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Turning a blind eye. Well, there are always so many different issues, and it's hard to know where to put your focus. But one that popped up for me this week that I didn't want to see just slide by has to do with corruption and corruption in the Trump administration. And it has to do with his billionaire investor, Carl Icahn, who Trump made a special advisor for regulatory reform. And so he was not paid for his service, but he didn't have to cut any of his own personal business ties, and he has many holdings and everything. So he had power. He got to talk directly to the president. He got to vet candidates for top posts, including some positions that would be in charge of regulating his own businesses. He got to help pick the people that would be in charge of those.
He resigned this past Friday because the New Yorker magazine is on the verge of publishing an article about him and how he has made over $500 million in increased stock value since he's been Trump's advisor. And he did that by getting this regulation, a plan to remove a regulation that was costly to one of his businesses. And just the rumor of this regulation being removed caused a certain kind of future shares of something to drop down. And he had hedged his bet that that would happen, and he made billions of dollars from it. There is a law that anyone, that doing these kinds of things is illegal if anyone but the president or the vice president does it. So he has broken the law, but the thing of it is, all of his business holdings and ties were known before he was put in that position. It just shows that these kinds of corrupting tendencies and all was not a deterrent to putting anyone in the Trump administration. And you look at position after position, you look at the, the Department of Health, where pharmaceuticals stocks were involved in all kinds of things, and it's just an outrage.
It is.
Yes, thank you.
It is. Anybody else? Yeah.
I just have a question. I may be wrong. I'm not here every week. But it seems to me that we brought a lot of concerns to this desk week after week after week.
30 minutes.
And I don't hear anything back.
We don't. We haven't. It's concerning. Anyone else? I'll take a turn if anybody else wants to go. Thank you. So the lack of response is concerning. The lack of Congressman Tiberi's presence here is concerning. We're his constituents, and we want to hear from him. And I also just feel it's so abundantly clear that our president is not fit for office. I mean, whether you do it in terms of mental health or corruption or just basically disinterest, he's not really being president. Let's be honest. He's not getting up in the morning and saying, how can I be president? He's not. He's just his same old bizarre, egomaniacal, narcissistic, corrupt self that he was when he was, had a few bad casinos in Atlantic City or whatever, So he's not really being president. So we aren't really calling for leadership. I'm not calling for leadership from Donald Trump because I don't believe in my heart that he's capable of that in any way whatsoever. And everything that he does just ends up catastrophically harming our nation, more and more. So I'm looking for leadership from my representative, from Pat Tiberi. I'm looking for leadership from him to distance himself from President Trump and to make it clear that we need to take steps to move past this presidency. So, if the Arts Council and the Business Council and the Economic Council and the Science Council and all of these people can resign because they don't want to have anything to do with this man, why are we hearing this deafening silence from Pat Tiberi and colleagues in the Congress, and from Rob Portman, I should say, in the Senate? So we need to hear from them, and they need to step up and start taking action, because honestly, the next thing is going to be it's too late. Whether it's an accidental war with North Korea, Mitch Lerner, who is one of our members in OH-12 and who was the one who spoke so movingly about his 3 children at the town hall. He is an expert about North Korea. That's what he does. He's a professor at OSU, and he has an op-ed piece in today's Washington Post just saying how these things happen accidentally because of the temperament of the people that are involved. And if that doesn't scare you, I don't know what would. So, both sides, exactly. So we're not counting on Donald Trump to save us from that. We're counting on Pat Tiberi to save us from that. And that's not going to happen accidentally. That's going to require courage. It's going to require commitment. It's going to be scary. Just like Jeff Flake or others have stood up and said, this man is not fit, we need people like Pat Tiberi to begin stepping up and saying, this man is not fit. What are we going to do now?
Thank you.
Great. All right. Whoops. Anybody else? Are we good? All right. Thank you, Tim. Appreciate it.